Sticking with the theme focused on password management. In this video, we're going to focus on just one of many tools used to enable an attacker to enact a brute force password hunt. Having produced what is a growing number of videos in recent weeks focused on password management, I thought it made some sense to take a little bit of a detour, although keeping with the theme, and maybe show one of the tools out of many. Understand that there are massive number of tools available for going after people's passwords, but I thought it would be useful, educational, to give at least one example to those of you interested in this particular topic, and hopefully a byproduct is to make this even more of an important factor in your thinking as you go about managing your online privacy and protection. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is bring this screen behind me into more of a prominent position, and we'll get into it. So I've got a machine here with a bunch of tools. When I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. If we look at the applications menu here, you can see that there are tools for all sorts of interesting work from an information gathering, security, attacking perspective. This is a distribution known as Kali Linux, which is designed for penetration testers, security-minded individuals, to give them the tools necessary to go about their work. Obviously, the distribution has been put together to allow people with great intentions to go about thwarting the bad guys. But with that as background, let's assume for a moment that someone's after you, right? Let's talk a little bit about social engineering. Well, they're probably going to know your name. Maybe they enter into a dialogue with you and they begin asking about your family, maybe where you live, city, state, that kind of thing, any pets, etc. And let's say, you engage, you're at a bar, you've had a few drinks, and, you guys are just chatting it up, and they get a few bits of information. I want to show how useful seemingly innocuous pieces of information can actually be. So here in Kali, I'm going to leverage a tool called Crunch. And so let's get that started. Crunch, and I want to, let's say I'm interested in passwords that are, let's say, 9 characters long, right? And as I go about this particular activity, I want to make sure that I save my output. Put that in the documents directory, and I'm going to call this wordlist 001.txt, and I now know your pet's name. For example, let's say your pet's name is Rex, and I know your street address, or I have an idea of what street you live on, and I know that those homes have 5-digit addresses. Or maybe I know what year you acquired the dog. Let's say that was 2015, right? Somewhere about. Let's assume that you have also taken security seriously, and you put a special character at the end of your password. Maybe your banking password, password for your portal, for your utilities, electric, gas, etc. Maybe even your home Wi-Fi password, right? So what we have, and I've forgotten a parameter here. This is going to be our template. So what we're going to do here, how many characters do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm looking for 8 character pass words or pass phrases. I want to generate combinations, expansions on the word Rex to try to use those expansions to get into your information, maybe connect to your home Wi-Fi. How difficult is that for me as an attacker to do with a tool like Crunch? So let's find out. So it turns out it's not very difficult. It only cost me 2 megabytes of storage, and that two megabytes of storage is going to get me 330,000 lines or passwords with variations on the theme Rex. And if we want to have a quick look at that, we can do that by opening it up in a text editor. So as I scroll through here, what you see is 330,000 different variations on the name Rex, which I can now take this file and use it with yet another set of utilities to target things like your Wi-Fi, your online accounts. And remember, going after these online accounts is usually something that is done after the password list has been acquired from an organization, right? So somebody gets the user database or password list from Capital One. They no longer have to go after Capital One's systems, right? Which, you know, if they're taking a list like this, using a tool that's going to try a brute force attack and pointing it directly at Capital One, that's likely going to raise flags as a result of Capital One's intrusion detection systems throwing alarms. But if they've acquired the database from Capital One and they now have that in their hands, they can go about the act of guessing passwords with a list like this without anyone's knowledge. And once they have determined your password, then it's a simple matter of pointing to Capital One, logging in, and getting access. Somewhat trivialized. I know that thankfully, on an increasing basis, banking institutions are leveraging additional factors of authentication, such as wanting to send you a text message as a result of a login attempt. That's okay. But we do need to consider the fact that there have been hacks or successful social engineering efforts targeted at our cell phone providers. So if this is well coordinated, right, you've got a weak password, it's compromised, and they've also been able to SIM swap you because your password at AT&T or Verizon was also weak, and or they were able to successfully social engineer the representative on the phone pretending to be you, that's also an issue. So, long way of saying you need to have really good passwords. Names of spouses, names of pets, names of children, those kinds of things, those do not equate to good passwords. Is this fixable? Right. So again, never a good idea to use those commonly known things, but are there ways to make this challenging? Are there ways to create passwords with known entities and make it just not cost effective for somebody to want to try? Sure. What if we were to, take Rex and maybe we add a couple of digits in front of it as well as a special character? How much more expensive does it become for the attacker to go after you with those 3 variables added? Remember, previously it only cost them 2 megabytes of space, and for that 2 megabytes of space you're going to get 330,000 variations on what might be your password, right? So let's see how much more expensive this edition makes the attempt. Oh, I've got to change the length here because we've added some entropy. Okay, so now this becomes a bit more unattractive, and I'm actually going to stop this. So in order to generate a word list with this kind of variation, I now need 12 gigabytes of space in order to house, what is this, 108 million? That's 1.08, call it 1.09 billion passwords, I think that is. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, yeah. So a lot more expensive. So this is going to cost me storage, it's going to cost me compute, and that is not to mention the time it's going to take for me to then take this list and run it through my tools to actually begin the act of trying to crack the password. Now, we're talking about an attacker with average resources in this particular example. Certainly there are supercomputers out there, machines stuffed with graphics cards that can take work like this and divide it across a bunch of processors, making this an even more trivial exercise. But back to my point, it becomes notably, significantly, maybe even exponentially more expensive for the attacker to go after your credentials as you make your passwords more complex. So this is simply unattractive, right? Not interested. You're no longer the low-hanging fruit in this case. And so we're about 13 minutes into the video. I think I will end it there. So hopefully that's a decent example of one, how an attacker might go about the process of figuring out your password, and more importantly, something simple that you can do to make it more difficult and less attractive to be that target. Like, subscribe, leave your comments below. Love to answer your questions. You'll see me in the next one.